don't put yourself on isolation island and say, oh, it's just happening to me. We're not alone in this. So reach out, find the folks that, whether it's on Facebook or social media, whatever that looks like for you, I guarantee you someone is in that shit with you. Somebody's on that struggle bus going, how do I get off this thing? So definitely community is where I think we should start. I also think self-reflection and leaning back on taking a real good hard look at your habits and your self-discipline and where you're at and what you can do. You only need to make a 1%, right? We just need to make a 1% shift and you can turn the entire ship around if you're dedicated enough to be able to put that into play.
Hello and welcome to Delusional. I'm your host, Michelle Coyle. I am here with my good friend, Amber Houghton. Amber, please introduce yourself.
Hi, Michelle. Thank you for having me today. I'm Amber, and I went from being a juvenile delinquent to the top 1% in the United States Air Force.
Why do we hear the story of the juvenile delinquent to the military? So you were a badass in the Air Force, from what I understand. Now, I've never been in the military. I have so much respect for you. But you've told me you've rattled off you were the first woman this and that. And you had a kick-ass military career, yeah?
I did, yes. A lot of firsts, a lot of bucking against the system, making a lot of change from the tactical level to the Air Force level.
We love change makers and leaders around here. But I do want to back up first and talk about your juvenile delinquent days because I'm intrigued. What kind of bad girl were you exactly?
I was the one who pushed the envelope on everything. So I ended up very tumultuous childhood. My parents divorced. I lived with my dad for a little while. He pushed me from female relative to female relative. I found my mom when I was 14 and a half, said, hey, I want to come live with you. I need a stable place to live. That lasted a little under a year. She was Mormon and again, I pushed the envelope and I asked why a lot. And next thing you know, there was a situation and I was arrested and sent to juvenile detention for 6 weeks.
Yeah. So having not been Mormon up until that point, right? A lot
Yes.
of trauma, obviously, in the background. And then you get stuck into the Mormon culture, which is stringent.
It is very different. The message I got was that females were there to be seen and not heard and not to ask questions. And I just didn't agree with that. That was not how I had built myself to be up until that point. I had an opinion and everybody needed to hear it. So
I was a similar team. But you're in a situation with a bunch of kids, girls and boys, who have been raised in the Mormon church with those norms, with those practices, not questioning them, probably most of them since birth. And then you pop in and I imagine you were fairly disruptive.
I was very disruptive. There was a lot of whys. Why can't women hold the same position as men in the church? Why can't I speak up? Why do I have to wear this clothing? I mean, it was everything. Why do I have to go on Sunday? Why can't I just play basketball? There was a lot. It was a lot of questioning.
So you exasperated some older Mormons, I'm sure. How did that land you in Jew? Like, what did you do? Did you steal something?
I did not steal anything. So my mom, this is slightly embarrassing and vulnerable, but I'm going to tell this story. So my mom had a parrot. Its name was Doc, and my job was to clean out the parrot's cage. And I don't know if you have any experience with big birds, but they are messy. They do not care about where they go to the bathroom. It's everywhere. So one of my jobs was to clip his wings. And at this point in my mom and I's relationship, it was very tense. She hadn't been in my life for 5 years. She was trying to be my mom. I didn't want a mom. I just wanted a place to lay my head. And I was checking off the boxes, like do the chores, take care of stuff, get through high school. And so one day she said, trim his wings. And Doc was old and he had a heart attack. And I felt terrible. I didn't know what to do with him. He died. Because you're supposed to put a blanket or a hood over them so they don't freak out, and then you spread their wings out and you clip them. And so he dies, and then he goes, when you die, you release everything. So he goes to the bathroom all over me. I don't know what to do with the bird. So I put the bird in a shoebox, and we only had one bathroom, and I put it on my mom's bed. While I was cleaning myself off, she came home unexpectedly, found the bird in the box on the bed, thought I'd murdered it to send a message like this is Godfather or something. And she ripped open the shower, grabbed me by my hair, pulled me out. It was quite the adventure, resulting in the cops being called and me being taken to juvenile
And
detention.
you being charged with bird murder.
That, and because it was like a physical altercation where she was like on my back and I was made the guilty party here. So off to
Mm.
juvenile detention I went for 6 weeks.
Okay. And you're at that age, what, 14, 15?
15 and a half.
15 and a half. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you get out of juvie and then what happened? Did you go back to live with your mom or what happened after that?
I did not go
Yeah.
back to live with my mom. I was also excommunicated and asked not to come back to the church. So
There were
I
any bird
found
murderers around there. Yeah.
So I had a friend and she had an aunt and uncle that lived in downtown Salt Lake City, and they offered to rent out a room for me and help with their business. And so I transferred from Cottonwood High School to West High School to finish out my high school career, I guess you could say. And that's where I worked 3 jobs. I worked with their company, which was a house cleaning service. I worked at telecommunications, and then I also worked at the local Dairy Queen.
Oh, wow. Okay. So no stranger to hard work. I mean, how wonderful
Yeah,
of those people to give you that opportunity to take you in. You know, most people wouldn't take in a teenager like that. So we're going to give them props for that. But they put you to work.
absolutely. They did, yes. And I had to pay rent, and I
Yeah.
had to pay for my own food. And looking back, I was like, well, this is what I got to do, right? And but that started. There's a key points in your life where your work ethic is kind of ingrained in you, and that just helps solidify mine. So
Yeah. It's interesting as you're talking because what I'm thinking, you and I are close to the same age. And what I'm thinking is, man, being 15 now is not the same as being 15 was in the mid 90s when we were 15. Um, it's a I mean, I remember people being emancipated minors and that being kind of a common thing, at least where I grew up, which was a little bit of a rough place. There were lots of people getting married at 15, like lots
oh
of
yeah.
girls getting married to GIs and going off at 15. There were people, pregnant, having kids at 15. There were definitely people that were dropping out, getting GEDs, doing starting independent lives at 15, 16 years old. And as a parent now, my kids are straddling that age. I've got a 13-year-old and almost 20-year-old. I'm just like, that is not what 15 is now.
Yeah, it not even close.
It's not even what 20 is now, right? Like my
Right.
20-year-old is still, coming home when he's not in college, right? And staying here. So
Yeah, it is definitely a different world. I know it kind of shaped how I parent as well, right? So at the age of 18, you have to go. And it's not to be cold and it's not to be callous, but it is, for you to spread your wings and figure out how to fly. And so my oldest is in the University of Texas in Arlington,
mhm.
and my second is about to graduate from high school, figuring out her college plan and what she wants to do. And then my son is also, he's 13, so
Yeah.
he
I feel
still
and
gets
I
to
feel the
ride it.
same way, and I was raised the same way. And shout out to UT. I went to UT Dallas, so we love UT Arlington. We got to shout out our UT Dallas comments whenever we get a chance. But that
Love it.
that is what it was like, was kind of figure out your own shit. And I feel like now, I think every generation says this about the generation underneath them, but it's like the
Yep.
generation now is so soft and we just like take care of our kids until they're 25 or whatever. And it's totally different. So you were in that situation of basically being a pretty independent adult at 15. You said you're paying rent.
Yes. Hmm.
Like you're working it out. Yeah. Okay. And so what point did you say, I'm going to graduate high school, I'm going to go into the military?
So, I had, when all this happened, I had called my dad and said, "Hey, mom kicked me out. I'm on my own." And my dad had said, "Well, you chose this. So you get to figure it out." And so I was like, "Well, there's no going back there." So from there, I just worked. I've got myself through. I played basketball when I was younger, and I was a point guard, and I thought I would be able to garner a scholarship until I tore my meniscus in a game, and that kind of messed up that future or that path. They offered me a partial scholarship, but I was like, man, I can barely afford to pay rent and get me to and from school, nonetheless pay for half of a college scholarship to Weber. So my brother at the time had called me and he was like, Amber, you got to look at the Air Force. They pay you, they feed you, they clothe you, they give you a place to live, and it's a great gig. And I was like, oh, okay. I hadn't thought about that yet. I mean, I just started my senior year, so as soon as I graduated, I was like, all right, I'm going to go see the recruiter, and I'm going to join the Air Force. That's going to be my goal now.
Yeah, free food, free rent. What could go wrong?
Yeah, yeah, right. Free and free clothing, right? They gave me a uniform to wear. It was great.
Yeah, yeah. How long did you end up in the military after that?
28 years.
This is always a story. As someone was like, I was
Yes.
18, they were going to give me free free housing. They were going to send me to travel the world, and 28 years later, I'm still in.
Yes, my entire adult life.
Yes. And we talked a little bit about this when I first met you. That transition out of the military is no joke either when that's been your
Yeah.
entire adult life.
Yeah, 100%. It is. So, and I've done a couple podcasts, and I actually started a program for this because so many of us, that's our whole identity. That's like, I built myself around the Air Force, around being an airman, around being a teammate, around being a chief and a leader. And so when I retired, that entire identity's gone. Like, you're literally just left standing there going, oh my God, who am I? Like, seriously, who the heck am I? And just trying to figure out, what do I do now? How do I move forward? A lot of vets turn to alcohol or numbing, or I mean, there's a lot of different coping mechanisms out there, because most of us just feel alone. It's like going cold turkey. Pick any addiction, and all of a sudden it just stops. And there you are going, oh my gosh, what do I do now?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you not only were in the military for a long time, you were really, really good at being in the military.
I
So when you
was.
say you were in the top 1%, what does that mean to somebody like me who doesn't have the all the military context?
So in the Air Force, I was the top of the enlisted tier, so an E9. And that's it. You can go no higher in the enlisted corps. And that makes up the top 1% of the enlisted corps in the United States military as a whole. It doesn't matter which service you are. So if you hear an E9, that's top 1%. It would almost be commensurate with when we're talking about athletes, and the top 6 or 7 get to college, but only the top 1% go to the NFL. So it's kind of that, if I can civilianize that comparison.
No, I
Everybody
appreciate
loves
that.
sports. Yeah.
And so if you don't make it to E9, you basically get told, hey, you're not going to get promoted past this. And that's kind of your terminal rank. And that's where you spend the rest of your career if you get stuck at 6 or 7 or 8 or what. How does that work?
So there's a cap on everything, right? So you can be, and the rules are not constantly changing, but they change often. So as you are developed from E1, which is an airman basic, to A1C, there's time rules. So we have to spend a certain amount of time in that rank to be able to have that full experience and be developed in that at that leadership level. And so as you go farther in your career, it gets obviously more challenging. The competition is much more fierce. So
Yeah.
it's
And
definitely
I
a
don't know the
challenge.
statistics on this, maybe you do, but I imagine the majority of people who join the military, they do their 2 years or their 4 years, and then they're out doing something else. Is that right?
There's a high percentage that do just the 4 years. A lot of folks, join the military to get the free education benefits or whatever life is pushing in their direction at that time. But there's a good chunk of us that stay in. Some of us get out as a E7 or a master sergeant right at 20. It just depends on how their life and their journey is developing.
Yeah. And so you went 28. You were really, really good at
I
it. You
did.
get all the way to E9. You're the first female this and the first woman that and everything else. And in the military, you know who you are, what your job is, who's your boss, who reports to you. You know, it's all very clear, right? Like very, very,
It
very
is.
clear. And then you get out and you're just Amber.
Yes, just Amber. And, I thought that when I first retired, I thought, you know what, I'm going to be just Amber. Um, and so when you try to be, you're not erase or just not acknowledge the 28 years of military service. I was introducing myself to people who knew me as chief, and I'd be like, nope, just Amber now, just Amber. But it got to the point where I almost started to devalue my own experience. And, it got a little weird because I'm like, no, I'm just Amber. And other people are like, no, you don't understand. You're a retired chief. And it is true. Once a chief, always a chief. And so we're expected to continue to behave um, with the decorum that comes with that rank, if that makes sense.
Yeah. You're always representing the military even after you're out on some
Yes.
level. Yeah.
Yes.
And do you behave with that level of decorum, Amber?
I really try to, Michelle. I have a little bit more sass than I did while I was in the military. I let a little bit more of that personal vulnerability side out. Um, it just depends on the situation. I still, I still am very professional, and I still put my best foot forward, and I still behave that in that manner. But like, I try not to swear, but it's gonna happen. I will drop a lot of cuss words sometimes. It just depends. Typically it starts off with, and is that okay? Can I swear? Because typically it starts off with, what the fuck is happening here?
Yes, and with apologies to my mother and the 7 folks who listen to this every week know that my mom turns it off the second I say fuck. She says I always listen to the
Oh.
podcast until you say the F word, and then I turn it off. So sorry, mom. 'Cause
Sorry,
I
Mom.
do invariably say the F. I'm an East Coast girly now. I've been living out here for a long time, and we swear on the East Coast.
Hmm.
Turns out. Okay, so you're doing really well in the military, but you also said that you pushed back on some stuff. That same personality trait that got you in trouble as a teenager trying to fit in with the Mormons was maybe an asset in the military. That's kind of interesting to me because I don't think, as a civilian, I don't think of the military as a place where you can ask a lot of questions or do a lot of pushback, at least not until you're pretty high up. Yeah.
You're correct. And I started off early because, why not? So I remember the first time that I pushed back, we had a general come visit our base, and we called them dog and pony shows, where we pull everything out, and show off everything great that we do. And I guess they didn't vet me properly. I'm not sure, but they stuck me in front of that general. And they said, because they want the younger guys to brief, right? It gives us experience and exposure, and getting used to talking to higher ranking individuals. And so I remember showing him the worst of the stuff and not the best, and saying that we needed more money.
Nice. You were
And these
honest.
facilities are garbage. Yeah. So after that briefing, my chief pulled me aside, and I was a young airman, and he was like, "What in the hell are you doing? Absolutely not." And I'm like, "But I thought that was the purpose. He's here, and I thought he was here to help us. And if he's here to help us, the only way he can help us if he knows the truth and what's going on and what our struggles are." I was wrong.
How
So
high up did you have to get before it became okay for you to push back or bring up issues or anything like that?
So I continued throughout my career to bring up issues. I just found some tact and a different way to maneuver instead of just word vomiting everything that was wrong. So
That's good. I
it,
think that's most of us in whatever professional career you
right.
learn how to
Yeah.
do it a little
Yeah.
savvier, you know. Were you able to affect any real change in the military?
I was. There were several things that I was able to change regarding policy and how the Air Force operated, with regards to explosive safety, how we did operations within our community. So at the headquarters level, there's there's MAGCOMs, major commands beneath that, and I was at the Air Force Special Operations Command in my last assignment, and I was able to affect some real change within our community. um, it's always good to hear. They always tell us, remember where you come from, right? But then when we get up to those levels, we conveniently forget. And so being able to be tapped into the airmen, and bring the airmen along with me, and their ideas and their struggles, and be able to see that change in effect real time, it's pretty fulfilling and pretty rewarding.
Are you able to tell us any details of stuff you got changed or just that would make sense to us?
um let's see. So, worked with explosives, and that always makes people itchy and uncomfortable. Or, wow, that's so cool, right? And as you can imagine, there's a lot of stringent rules around working with explosives. One wrong thing, and it can go catastrophically wrong for a lot of people. And so, some time that I spent in Europe on the Inspector General, I traveled around from base to base inspecting all of these different programs. And as we found trending items or highlighted items that seemed to be particularly deep rooted, we were able to highlight those and then actually get the Air Force as an organization, an enterprise, to change those rules of engagement to make it more safe or easier for our guys to operate. So
Oh, nice.
yeah,
I
trying to
don't know
put
if you
that into
could
civilian
tell
terms.
me, but no, I grew up in Lawton, Oklahoma, which is next to Fort Sill, which is where they
Hmm.
train the artillery, and so for the Army, and I think some of the other branches sometimes too, just for anybody listening. And if you take a wrong turn in Lawton, Oklahoma, you end up on a little dirt path that says danger. This is where we shoot the artillery. Like, turn your ass around. You're going to get blown up.
Yep.
I grew up with my windows getting rattled constantly by artillery to the point where I couldn't even hear thunder for years because my brain just stopped registering it. You just get used to
Well, it's the sound of freedom, ma'am. I just would like to let you know.
it. That's right. That's right.
The sound of freedom right there.
That's right. That's right. I come from a weird place with all of this because both of my parents were military. I grew up around military. I grew up in a military town, but I never went in. Now my mother tried. She said she thought I might do well. I said, "Mom, I'm going to get kicked out. I'm going to tell someone to go fuck themselves." The second they get in my face, I should not do that. And so I went and I took a soft girl college path instead. I feel like she always,
Hey.
was kind of like, and I wonder sometimes, like, would I have done well? Because I think, like you, I either would have done really, really well, or I would have been terrible and I would have got kicked out like the first 6
Well,
weeks.
I think, yeah. So I think like basic training was hard for me. I never got along with females when I was younger. I was always I had brothers and my dad, for a little while, um, and I rode horses, and I was either alone or I was around dudes.
Yeah.
And so when they stuck me in a flight with 59 other females, and then they put us in this bay room building, this open bay as our dorm room, and our bunks are right next to each other. Yeah, that was very, I don't do the cattiness, I don't do the clicky thing. And so being in that environment, I was like, I'm just gonna leave, I'm just gonna stick to myself. I'd crawl inside my wall locker and read a book when we had free time. Like I really did not want to be in that scenario. And I was like, it was a daily reminder, just keep your mouth shut and do your job. That's all you gotta do.
You get pretty far in life keeping your fucking mouth shut and doing your
I
job.
know.
So you get
Yep.
to our age and you got to be a leader or something. I imagine after fashion, you did learn how to get along with women. Do you like women now? And
So my career field that I chose was very male dominated. So at times I was well, let me see. The first assignment there was only three of us. The fourth assignment, and that's out of 150 to 250 guys. And so as we evolved, as the military evolved, the Air Force evolved, our community evolved, there became more females present. But for the most part, it was low percentages. So I was used to operating. And then when we did get a female in, I would get super excited because I'm like, yes, I have a sister, like a sister in arms. And then 9 times out of 10, she was like, we're not friends. And
aw,
it was like, you would think we would band together. And in my earlier days, it seemed to be more of a competition, which, my brain doesn't work like that. So I didn't really understand it. But as we evolved and we got more females in, it became more commonplace. And when I say commonplace, there'd be like 10 of us instead of two.
yeah.
So it was definitely quite an experience. The older and the more females we got, the more it became a sister type network. And if I didn't find that within my community, I went outside and found it outside of my community. So I still had the female support. So it wasn't that I was against it. It just was, not foreign. It was foreign to me in the beginning.
Well, I know I know what you mean in certain ways, right? I definitely early in my career was in male dominated fields, maybe not as extreme with the percentages as what you're talking about, but coming up through business school, being a political consultant, it's very, very
Oh
male dominated, both of those things. And I mean, I remember being in business school and a guy basically saying, "Oh, you got in because you're a girl," and I was at that time, because I
yeah.
was also less tactful in my 20s, I was like, "Why don't you whip out your GMAT and I'll whip out mine and like let's fucking put them on the table and see who scored high." It's just like fuck you for that. But there was also, there was always this sense of, we're going to have one girl. We're going to have one girl on the leadership team of this company, or one this and one that. And it creates a sense of competition among the women that
Hmm.
is unfair, that preoccupies a lot of time and space, mental space, that you could be, again, like just shutting up and doing your job instead. And
Hmm.
but that's how it feels when it's like, oh, they're maybe gonna have one woman. And still, a lot of the political consulting firms around, it's like they might have a woman partner, maybe.
Yeah.
There's just not a lot of women in the industry, and so it does feel competitive. And eventually we all kind of had a reckoning where we said, wait, why are we fighting with each other instead of helping each other? This is fucked up.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and I've heard it all. I mean, from you slept your way to the top, even though
Mhm.
I didn't. Again, that's not even physically, like it's not even possible the way that the Air Force or the military promotes people, but okay. Um, to
Can't
if
sleep with all
when
of
we
them.
I know, right? And then when we did get more females in, then all of a sudden we were all lesbians, you know? And I'm
Mhm.
like, okay, look, guys, like, can we just pick something? Or can I just be known for the hard work that I do every day, day in and day out, my work
Yeah.
ethic? It was definitely an experience. Again, it's part of being in a male dominated career field. It just is. And you can either get a chip on your shoulder and you can have a bad attitude, or you can just outwork everybody around you. And that's what I chose to do.
Well, and you figured it out, and eventually you did make friends with women. And I know you can be friends with
Hmm.
women because you and I are friends, and because when I met you, you were surrounded by a gaggle of women who obviously liked you very much, and whom you obviously liked very much. So
Hmm.
I know you got it figured.
Oh, I do. Yeah.
You got it figured out. Okay, and so now let's talk about now, because now you are a coach, and like many people on the show, but your coaching niche is very, very interesting to me because you coach athletes. So can you tell us how you got into that and why it's important to you?
So my son plays football. And for the longest time, I can't even pretend like I was big into football because I wasn't. In the military, the guys would talk about football, and I'm like, "Yep, my team's the Jets. Yep, cool. They won or they lost." But being in the thick of it, just I wasn't a crazy fan, anything like that. And so then when my son picked up his first football at the age of 4 and immediately fell in love with football, I was like, "Oh, we're serious." Okay, so he started tackle football at the age of 5, and he's been playing since. And so he's like, "Mom, I'm gonna play college ball, and I'm gonna make it into the NFL." So I'm like, "Absolutely," and I'm gonna do everything I can to help pave that road for you. I can't walk it for you. I can't carry you down it, but I can definitely build a team of experts around me to help me get you where you want to go. And so it became the first, we do 7-on-7. I'm not sure if you know what that is. It's like flag football, but it's a little bit more intense. And then he plays tackle football at the same time. And so we were at a 7-on-7 game, and one of his teammates, there's a lot of pressure. I mean, sports parents are, we're something else. And in some of these 7-on-7 tournaments, it gets like parents fighting very quickly. Like it escalates very fast. And so anyway, this kid, he didn't get the ball. He had a full performance meltdown, and we're at the age of 10 years old now, 10 and 11. He's just losing his ever loving mind on the field. Mom and dad are still pissed off and yelling at him. He's not hearing a word they're saying. The coach is yelling at him, and I'm just like, man, what are we doing right now? Like, this kid, like this kid isn't beating himself up enough over missing catching the ball,
Yeah,
but he's getting it from like all sides.
yeah.
And so I wait for the parents to kind of calm down, the coach to go back to the game, and I go over and I said, "Hey man, why don't you walk with me? Like, this kid's 3 seconds away from even bigger meltdown." And so we walk and we talk, and I get him back in the frame of mind. We have the conversation about what happened, what we can do about it, how we can do better really quick. And then next thing you know, he goes back to the coach and says, "All right, coach, I'm ready. Put me back in." And it makes an amazing play. And so I was like, "Oh man." So the coach affectionately started calling me his muse for his athletes. And then anytime there was an issue, he'd be like, "Go see Miss Amber." And so that's kind of how it all started. There's definitely a need there. And as I continued with my son, and as I started mentoring it started with middle school, and then some high school athletes came to me. They've now some have moved on to college, and they still come back, and we still have those conversations. So that's where it started. Now I'm integrated in the local high school, and they've been gracious enough to go against the grain and have a woman on the field with them, because that's not very common either.
Mhm.
And I know that, the coach took a lot of flack for it last night or last season, because there were a bunch of comments on social media like, who's that short blonde-headed lady? Why is she on the field?
Mhm.
Instead of just, seeking to understand or being curious. But yeah, it's been quite a journey so far. And I love what I do. I love helping these young athletes find themselves. High performance, anything, I don't care what it is. Sometimes we lose ourselves, we lose our identity. And, all we are is now just a performer. And I want to be able to change the way athletics develops these young athletes. Like I want to say, hey, look, you can be a high performer, not lose yourself, whether you're an athlete or a coach, because I work with a couple coaches too, which is really cool. But yeah, I just think, we train speed and strength, and we track stats and schemes and playbooks and all of these things that we ask for them. And then when something happens or goes wrong, we yell at them and say, go, I need you to be a leader, damn it. But nobody ever taught them how to be a leader.
Yeah.
So instead of hard knocks leadership, why don't we train composure and accountability and decision making, instead of just being like, go be a leader. And these poor kids, man, they get screamed at to go be a leader, and they're going to go repeat whatever they've seen. So if, I've told a couple coaches, if there's problems within your program, then you need to look in the mirror, man, because it's you. It's not them. Not yet. Like it's coming from you, and they're picking up on the energy. They're picking up on the turmoil or whatever's going on inside of you. So if you've got some serious issues in your locker room, always starts with the head coach. I don't care. And I'll die on that sword.
I have that same conversation with CEOs and founders every single day about
Hmm.
their staff.
Yeah.
Same thing. If your whole staff is acting up, it's you, buddy.
Yeah.
Um,
They're feeding off you.
they're feeding off that energy. That's absolutely
Hmm.
right. Um, you know, every time I find myself in any kind of personal or professional development situation where I'm learning anything, I always think, God, I wish we taught this to kids.
Oh,
And
right.
sometimes I'll be sitting in one of those trainings and there is a teenager, somebody's brought a teenager, or there's somebody that's a young, very young, 18, 19, 20, 21, that's decided to come. And I just think, oh my God, how amazing the rest of your life is going to be because you're learning this stuff now. And there are things that I didn't learn
Yes.
until my mid, late 30s and into my 40s. I'm still learning, you know, that it's like, man, if I had known that at 15, at 20,
Oh, right.
oh, my life
Yes.
would have been so different. Love the way it went, learned a lot. You know? But
Yeah.
oh my God, why aren't we teaching this stuff to kids?
I really don't have I wish I had an answer for you. I do. But I have no idea. And so this is the one way that I can give back, because you're 100% right. I wish I had somebody when I was 15 to be like, yo, what are you doing? Stop. Like, let's have somebody plant those seeds in me, and then let me be the one who decides whether or not to water or nurture them. And I'm not trying to soften. Like, I want to be very clear. I'm not trying to soften football. Like, I love football. I love the intensity of football. I'm like, smash them, steal their soul. Yes. Like, I get super amped up and excited. But I think that if we teach them how to turn that on and off, and we're intentional in developing that leader, I think that the only what could go wrong? I think only good things could happen from that. And then maybe, as they journey through, it's not such a huge identity loss, because again, when you look at the numbers, only 6 to 8% go to college. And we're talking millions of kids who are competing for these positions, right? From the time they're 5, and my son is included in this, but from the time they're 5 years old to the time, what happens when you're a freshman and you don't make the cut? Like, identity loss. What do I do now? What happens if you make it all the way through for high school and you're the star number one player, and then you don't get picked up by the college? Or NFL, like what happens at that point? Why does it have to be, rock bottom? Why can't somebody be there with a safety net saying, hey man, remember all that stuff that we talked about and you learned? This is now how you lead yourself through all that shitty time right there.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. You get to use this in any area of your life.
absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, can I reflect something that I heard as you were telling the initial story of walking the kid from the sidelines?
Hmm.
I heard somebody who had a lot of trauma herself as a kid, went through a very traumatic childhood, then went into the military, which we all know comes with its own level of trauma. Looking at a kid, seeing what was happening, seeing all the adults getting on him at the same time and going, this is a traumatic event. I don't know if you thought those words in your head, but it's something in you said, this is not okay. This is going to screw this kid up. We need to do this differently. And you were able to go and pattern interrupt the situation and then used what you had learned from healing your own trauma and able to, in order to teach him a different way to process that or think about that. When did you realize that you had trauma, that you needed to learn a different way to handle it? Like, where was that in the whole story for you?
Oh, which point? So
Like, at what point did you go, oh, that childhood wasn't normal? I've got some
um
shit to process here.
So I would honestly, I would probably say I didn't realize my childhood wasn't normal until I saw my Mormon friends in their family
Mm,
environment. And how, they were so loving and they had Sundays like family day and you're dedicated to just the family. There's no friends. There's no, just the way that they talked to the parents talked to their kids. I was like, man, you're not yelling, cussing, screaming, hitting like there's like this is what do you mean you guys don't do your dad doesn't go off on a drunken rage or your mom doesn't run away from all the stuff that's going on like I was honestly just like this is weird and I didn't know how to deal with it at that time and that point in my life and so I did what I think a lot of us do is we just lock that shit away so I that's when I started building Pandora's box and just stuffing stuff in there and I'm
yeah.
like in the box you go I don't know how to cope with this in the box you go so the tipping point for me is when I was coming up on my retirement and I could almost feel that box like breathing and I was like man I'm not in a good place all
Mm,
of the trauma that I've stuffed in here for 40 some odd years is just now it's about to come out and just hurt people that I don't want to hurt. I don't want to hurt anybody, but the military, I already was very adept at compartmentalizing because of my tumultuous childhood, but I fine tuned that skill so well in the military. And then when I retired, it was like, I got to get in front of this train. I got to get out from in front of this train because I'm about to get run the fuck over and it's going to hurt everybody around me. And so it sounds nerdy, but I bought a whiteboard and I put it up beside my bed in my room. And in the middle of the night at 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock in the morning when I couldn't sleep, I would get up and turn the light on and be like, who am I? Like, who
mhm,
am I if I'm not in the Air Force? Who am I if I'm not a
mm.
mom? If I'm not a wife? Like, who am I under all of this? Like, what makes me happy? What makes me sad? It was a whole self reflection, deep dive into who Amber is without this identity. So it's a long
And
answer, but
you just did that on your own? Like, did you have a coach? Did you have a therapist? Did you have anybody guiding your process? Were you
so
YouTube videos? Like, how did you know what to do?
nope. So I didn't, and not. So what happened was my marriage was not going well, retiring from the military, the kids were in upheaval, a lot of big life changes in a small amount of time. And I went to mental health on base. And this is not me, knocking the system, but it is me saying that we need to do better. Because as a chief master sergeant, right, I've got some clout, I've got some rank. I went to mental health on base and they were like, are you going to hurt yourself? And I was like, no. And they were like, are you going to hurt somebody else? And I'm like, maybe. I don't
Maybe.
know. That's why I'm here on the phone with you right now because I'm like really close. and, and they were like, well, it doesn't sound that serious. So we can't see you, right? It's not an emergency. And I'm like, listen, man, I'm telling you, I'm about to break. Like I'm coming to you, I'm telling you this. They were unable to see me. They sent me to something called PODIF, which is basically counselors embedded in the squadrons on the base and special ops the base I was at was one of the few places that had that, but they were overloaded. And so I was like, nobody can help me. Like, can you refer me off base so I can go see a private? And they said, no, that's not authorized. And I was like, I don't understand what you mean. This isn't authorized. I mean, I wrote a lot of letters, pushed it all the way up to the top, because if I, as a chief, am being told this, what are you telling our young airmen? What are you telling these 18 to 24-year-old kids that know they're struggling but can't get any help because they're not a direct threat to themselves or others yet? Like, what is that? Just was so incredibly messed up to me. I couldn't grasp it. So I made quite the splash regarding that before I retired. And once I retired, I found the Veterans Administration locally, and they were able to get me in and start to help me process. But I mean, by then I'd already I'd already started going down this path. I'm like, I got to figure this out, because my kids need me, the people in my life need me, and I can't just walk around on edge and volatile all the damn time.
Yeah. Yeah. And I
So,
mean, so if I'm doing the math right, you would have retired at like 46. Is that right?
mhm.
Okay. And this is literally the first time in your life, your adult life, that you've ever not been in that context. And so I want anyone
Yes.
that's not been in the military to really understand the gravity of that, because the military tells you who you are, where to be, what shots you have to take, what you're eating, like what you should weigh. Like, I mean, they have
Hmm.
total control over your life. And so when you're getting out in your mid 40s, it's like, I mean, did you have this, like, how do I even do anything?
So, I did and I didn't. So life choices, right? The same time that I lost my identity as a leader and as in the Air Force and as an airman, things went really south with my marriage, and I lost my identity as a wife. And
Yeah.
right along with that, because sometimes, hurt people. Um, my kids were very upset and pulled away from me, and so I lost another identity. So at this point, I am really like, who the fuck am I, and how do I survive this?
Hmm.
Um, and so for the last 2.5 years, I have been on such a profound healing journey. Get punched enough times in the face by the universe, and you can either repeat the pattern or grow. And so, as hard as it was, I wanted to grow, and yeah. All I can say is I'm really grateful for the military and the structure and the self discipline that they instilled in me, because that's what kept me getting up and getting dressed and brushing my teeth and showering and getting ready to face the day. If without that training, I don't think I would have been able to be as successful as pulling myself out of that darkness.
It's such an important point, because we talk about it, and even the way I was framing it is like, as it's, it's all negative because they've got all this control over your life, but they are teaching you discipline in a way that you can, if get through this transition, that you can apply to the rest of your life in a positive way. Tell us what
Absolutely.
discipline means to you, and how do you talk to your athletes about it?
So, I mean, to sum it up in simple words, right? Self discipline means doing the thing you don't want to do, and embracing the suck and just getting it done. I mean, so how many times have you caught yourself putting off a project because you're like, whatever it could be. I don't know enough about it. I don't think I'm going to be successful at it. It's going to take too much for me to get this done. And so you go decide to clean the whole house or mow the yard in the front and the back, right? All to avoid doing the one thing that makes you itchy and uncomfortable or gets you out of that comfort zone. And so for me, discipline is saying, yep, I see you. I recognize that you're making me uncomfortable and itchy and scratchy, and I'm going to embrace you. Come over here and give me a big hug, because we're going to do this together. Like, that's what discipline means to me.
That's so funny. It wasn't until a couple of years ago that I had a frame of discipline as healing, of discipline as self-care, that as
Oh,
discipline as
mhm.
medicine even, right?
Oh,
Like,
yes.
discipline is what we do because we care about ourselves. Self-care isn't sitting in the bathtub with Rocky Road.
Right.
As much as everyone likes to think it is, that's not actually good for you,
Yeah,
it turns out. No, self-discipline is getting up and making your bed and saying, if I do nothing else today, at least I accomplished something, right? And going to
absolutely.
the gym and eating good food, and you know what, like, that's how we take care of ourselves.
Yeah. I'm going to steal that though. Discipline is medicine, because I say movement is medicine all the time.
Yeah.
But you're right. Discipline is medicine. It is, I think, one of the highest acts of self-love. Because again, we're embracing the thing that is putting us in a position to grow. And if we don't embrace it, then we stay stuck and we're on repeat. We're on that loop, right? I don't want to be on loop. I want to grow.
Well, absolutely. And anytime anybody calls me and they're in the I can't get out of bed, get out of bed, brush your teeth,
Hmm.
take a shower, get dressed. You can still be depressed dressed, get dressed and depressed. But see, like at least try, did I eat? Did I sleep? Did I shower? Like,
Hmm.
is there a human need that I'm not meeting first? And it's amazing how much better you feel most of the time when you do that stuff. Now, if you do all that stuff and there's still a problem, then there's still a problem and we address it, right?
Right.
But
Yep. I think, yeah, the important thing is, right, to acknowledge this sucks,
yeah,
right? Like I'm in a shitty place,
I
or
am making this up.
I prefer like I feel sad. I don't like to say I am sad, because I
Yeah,
believe in the power of words.
yeah,
And I believe that if you're speaking that way, the loudest voice is our own. And so if we're speaking that way to ourselves, we're convincing ourselves to be that way. But if you say, I feel right now sad, okay, I'm telling myself it's a feeling, it's temporary, it's going to pass, right?
yeah.
I'm going to figure this piece out. And so I believe that the power of words is incredible, whether, and think about how, like, Michelle, if I was sad and depressed, like, how would you talk to me,
Yeah. Yeah. I would say,
So
like, it's a feeling. Yeah. No.
yeah, yeah. I mean, for real, like, yeah, okay,
Yeah.
Amber, I hear you. I
Yeah.
see you. Yep, I know you're going through some hard times.
Yeah.
Now get the fuck up. Get dressed. Let's go.
I was like, it really
So,
depends on who you were to me, how I
yeah,
would talk to you. But yeah. There's a guy
yeah.
on TikTok, and my 7 loyal listeners know that I love TikTok and I'm on there all the time. But there's a guy on TikTok and his whole thing is he just is like looking in the camera and he's just like, get up,
Hmm.
get up. And I love that guy and everybody loves that guy. And it's really because people need to be told sometimes by a stranger through their phone.
Yep.
You've been scrolling too long. Put it fucking down. Get
Yep.
up. If you don't feel better, in 15 minutes from now, at least you tried, but like 90% of the time, you're
Right.
going to feel at least a little better. It's not going to solve all your problems. I'm not saying like, oh, all of your depression is going to go away because you got up and showered. But I
Right.
can't tell you how many times in my life I was going through some shit. And the thing that saved me was exactly what you're talking about. I have discipline, I have a routine. So if I'm happy, I get up, I put on my workout clothes and I go to the gym. And if I'm sad, I get up and I put on my workout clothes and I go to the gym. And if I'm pissed off, I get up and I put on my workout clothes and I go to the gym. And it's what I do every day. And I have the muscles to show for it because and I'll be goddamn, there are not very many times that I walk out of that gym and I'm still sad or just still pissed
Right.
off or still whatever. Now, guys, I'm not talking about people who have like serious clinical issues. We're not qualified to talk about that. Neither am I or mental health clinicians. We're talking about the people who are not suffering with like clinical levels of mental health that
Yeah.
you need to go see somebody for. Like, obviously, if you need to do that, go do that. For
Yeah.
everybody else
And
who's
I'm
had a
not
bad day,
saying,
you know?
yeah, I'm not saying not to feel it. Like I
No.
100%, lean into that feeling, understand why that feeling is there, accept it, acknowledge it, and then let's pick up and start to move forward with it. Like that's where in my opinion, that's the first steps of healing, because there's always something underneath, oh, I'm sad. Okay, why? Well, Michelle was mean to me today. Okay, well, why was Michelle mean to me today? And how did that make me feel? Like,
No.
so if I tend to ask myself the why question 5 times. And at the end of that is usually like where my root is. Well, Michelle didn't say hi to me, so that means she's angry with me. And then I had this whole story made up in my mind, which none of that was true. Michelle was just busy,
That's
like
right. Busy lady. I always I tell my clients, ask your discovery questions. And the questions are, what am I making this mean?
yeah.
How is that a problem? When did you decide that? And once you start
Hmm.
asking yourself these questions, it's amazing what pops up. And you go, oh, that's something that I decided when I was 5. And it's actually not relevant
Yeah.
to me anymore in my
Yeah.
40s.
Right. Isn't that crazy how long we hold these things inside?
It fascinates me every day. It's why I do the work that
Yep.
I do. I am always learning more and more about it. Amber, there is somebody listening to this right now who needs an identity shift, who is ready to step into something different, who has been doing the same thing for a long time and who knows that the end of that is coming and something new is coming in from them for them, but they are scared shitless. And what do you want to say to that person?
Well, first, you're not alone, right? We're all either in that, going through it, uh, have been through it. So you don't put yourself on isolation island and say, "Oh, it's just happening to me." We're not alone in this. So reach out, find the folks that, whether it's on Facebook or social media, whatever that looks like for you. I guarantee you someone is in that shit with you. Somebody's on that struggle bus going, "How do I get off this thing?" So definitely community is where I think we should start. Um, I also think self reflection and leaning back on taking a real good hard look at your habits and your self discipline and where you're at and what you can do. You only need to make a 1%, right? We just need to make a 1% shift and you can turn the entire ship around if you're dedicated enough to be able to put that into play. So, but yeah, you're not alone. We're not alone in this. I know we like to think we are, right? Because it makes us special, but we're not.
Not at all. And there's a whole community of people out here that are working on getting 1% better every day. If
Yes.
you are interested in being in that community with us, you can join us in the Delusional Movement. It's our new Facebook group where there's a bunch of badass people. Amber's in there, I'm in there. What more do you need? There's a bunch of other people in there too that are all working toward their dreams. We would love for you to join us. The link is in the show notes. And you can follow me anywhere you want to follow me at Michelle to Scale. And if you DM me, I will get back to you because I am a real person and they're not robots in my DMs yet. Maybe one day I'll get that famous, not yet. Amber, where can people find you if they want to follow you, know more about you and your work?
So I'm on Facebook at amber.lee.houghton. I'm on Instagram at amber.houghton.94. You can go Elite Performance Systems Strategies on Facebook as well. And from there, I mean, you can just email me at amber@amberhoughton.com.
And it is really you, Amber.
It
Not
is really me. I answer everything.
find Amber. She's fucking awesome. And find me and find
Oh,
us and join us in the Delusional Movement. We'll all be delusional together.
I
Amber
love
Houghton,
being
thank you so much
delusional.
for being on the show today. I really appreciate you.
No, thank you, Michelle. I'm honored to be here and excited to help everybody grow and get through the awesome life journey that we're on together.
We're all going to get through it together, y'all. Thank you
Yep.
for listening and watching, and see you next time.